Welcome to the fifth episode of the Good Boss podcast. This time around, I'm talking though not to one of my earlier bosses, but to someone who is a very senior person and a boss nevertheless, but in a space where he has spent the last 42 years working in the same company. So, in a sense, has not made a CV for the past 42 years. Arun Ramchandani, Senior Vice President and the Head of the Defense in a space within L&T. Thank you, Arun, for taking the time and agreeing to have this conversation with me.
Thank you, Ajith. Pleasure to be here.
Post your engineering from IIT Delhi, from then on L&T, if you could just quickly take us through what the journey has been, and we will cover aspects in detail as we move along.
So let me roll back to my IIT days because I suppose the foundation was there.
You didn't want to go to the US? I mean, the typical route
at that time, I kind of figured that I got into IIT out of competitive pressure. So, my folks said that, look, this guy seems like a bright guy, academic guy, and maybe we should nudge him into, writing the JE exam. And of course, I did have a
You prepared for it, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
What do you mean a little bit? People are preparing years. People go to quotas
No.
2 years preparing.
In those days, there was nothing like that.
How many months did you prepare for this?
So, I would say about couple of months in the vacation because I did the ICSE program and we had a little bit of gap between the 10th and 11th, and I kind of, applied myself to that.
And was that the traditional way people prepared? I mean, where people
prepare there were a few classes, etc. in Mumbai, and Mumbai was relatively one of the bigger hubs for IT entrances. All that has changed now, the center of gravity has shifted to Kota, and people come from very more diverse parts of India. So,
all right. So IIT. So we'll talk IIT. That 5 years kind of shaped your thinking in terms of what you want to do. So.
Yeah. So the thing was that where I kind of was different from the rest of my batch, in that super competitive environment, there was everybody who wanted to be everything. So there were guys who were sitting for GMAT exams. There were guys who were sitting for CAT exams. There were guys who were doing GRE. There were guys who were doing advanced GRE. And it was all that thing, there were guys looking for a job in Schlumberger, which paid
in dollars.
In dollars and all that. And here was I who kind of thought that, look, I got into IIT through this competitive rut. Let's write an exam and see what happens. And not because it was like, a passion that I wanted to do. So I kind of thought that, look, I've now become a mechanical engineer and I should
practice mechanical engineering.
Yeah, before I, get into the next thing. Because this way my life will take me to wherever the competition lies. So let me just step back. So I was the only guy who didn't take any exam in the final year.
That's it. So you just finished your engineering? In what, mechanical?
In mechanical engineering.
And then interviewed for L&T?
Yeah, so and in the final semester you had these job interviews, campus interviews, and you were supposed to stitch yourself a suit and cycle down to the interview in your suit. And that's what I did. I said, let me first find myself a job. And then I'll figure out what I need to do, if I need to study more, what I need to study, what the future is going to hold for me. But the first thing is I should become a practicing engineer. And I did a couple of interviews and they were disasters because they began with group discussions and all. And all the competitive guys were like,
talking.
They were like hogging.
Did you manage to get a sentence in?
The first two were like disasters. I was struggling to, say my piece. And then fortunately I had the L&T interview, which went like a breeze. And they made me feel comfortable. The interview was good. There was no group discussion, and I got selected. And I finally said, okay, Otherwise, somewhere down the road, I had a little bit of fear that I may be one of those unemployed youth with nothing
Rare
more to do.
post-IIT unemployed youth.
Yeah, yeah. So fortunately, this L&T thing happened. I was at IIT.
Which year was that?
That was 1984.
84 is when you joined.
Yeah, 1984, June of 1984. 1st June 1984, I came to the Powai campus of L&T.
Wow. Because then Powai, the campus existed.
The campus did exist because Powai was the first campus of L&T.
Yeah.
L&T itself has a very interesting background and story.
No, we'll get to see. Yeah, so this is this is something we'll definitely bring L&T in because L&T itself. I was running some stats. When I heard that you joined L&T in 1984. So in 1984, L&T was priced at ₹18 a share.
Yeah.
Now it's 3,800.
Yeah.
The revenue, you kind of mentioned to me that it was 400 to 500 crores at that point of time.
Yeah.
And now it's 2.55 lakh crores.
Yeah.
The market cap currently is about $60 billion, which is about $5.6 billion. So L&T from where it was, and how many employees at that point of time probably in L&T?
So I don't know. Maybe there were few thousands.
Few thousands, and now it's what in what range?
Now it is like maybe 200,000.
200,000. Yeah. So it's come a long way.
It's come a long way.
And you've been with L&T through that journey for the past 42 plus years. Which is very unique in a sense because most people I've interviewed, including my bosses and including me. So I've had a much shorter corporate career of 30 years, and I've had 9 different companies. Some of them long. My longest has been 9 years, but frankly, and some of them have been not because of what I wanted to, because of the company got acquired or whatever. But 9 banking and financial services firms where I worked with, and you're unique in the sense you worked with one organization, and I'd like to explore some of that. And maybe we can start with that because look, when you look at the typical youngster nowadays, or the new sort of age millennials or Gen Z, whatever you want to call them, the horizon is probably not more than 3 years. 5 years is like too long. When you join, it was different even for me. So when I joined ANZ Inglis Bank in the beginning, I would have retired with the bank unless obviously circumstances led to other things with Standard Chartered acquiring the bank, and before that the bank going through restructuring, all of that. But in your case, you're stuck with the same company for 42 plus years and reached this position, which is you're in the top 15, I'm assuming, in L&T?
Yeah, in the top.
In the top 10 to 15 in L&T, and heading the defense portfolio of L&T, which includes, and L&T in defense is right up there, right? It includes obviously hobnobbing with or rather conversation with the defense minister, the ministry, working with the bureaucrats, working with other, because all said and done, private sector involvement in defense is a recent phenomenon. It used to be the ordnance factory, until maybe 10, 15 years back, and over the past 10, 15 years, L&T, other firms have gotten involved to a lot of betterment of the entire defense speed of execution and the infrastructure and so on. So, and we'll come to that too. So, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, how has that worked for you? Because a lot of people say, look, even your salary, unless you do a zigzag, you're going to not get paid too well, because others who are joining laterally will start getting paid more than you, and eventually if you stick around with the company for too long, you'll be one of the underpaid, overworked kind of people. Is that true?
So Ajith, let's look at the context. We are talking about 40 years back, and obviously those days were a little different from today. That said, when I got into L&T, it was with a perspective of seeing how I could find a career as a mechanical engineer. And that is what drove me a kind of exploration into understanding this field of mechanical engineering and whether it is something that I would like to pursue as a career. When I started my career, for the first 2 years, they rotated me through various departments of L&T, project sites, design departments, workshops. And finally, I selected a career in R&D because I felt I could apply my engineering knowledge more effectively in that. And once I got into that, I kind of got sucked into it. I got deeper involved. I began enjoying it. And initially, I thought maybe I'll figure out after a couple of years what I need to do. And I kind of felt this is what I need to do.
How long were you in R&D?
So I've spent about out of my 42 years, close to about 27, 28 years
In R&D.
in R&D.
Initially, you went into R&D and you
Yeah,
spent in R&D for 27 plus years.
Yeah, about 25 years of
And what sort
R&D.
of R&D was that?
Yeah. So before I jump to that, let me also close the other part of the question that while I did get involved, I think the environment also enabled me to stick around. So it's not unusual for people in L&T of my generation to be there for,
So let me probe that a bit. I'm sure there were calls from other companies, from other consultants, asking, inquiring about. Did those calls come? And if they did, were you tempted ever?
So, every now and then there were a few calls, and the thing was I didn't want to get distracted.
Okay.
So I said I'm not. There was at some point you thought that okay, let us check it out and figure out. But then on the other hand, I said let's not get distracted. Let's just say no upfront.
So you didn't even explore.
So frankly, I didn't explore, and I just kind of felt that I'm doing what I'm enjoying doing, and I kind of stayed with it. So I suppose that explains the 41 years. Now coming to what kind of R&D that we did at that time. So we must understand again that in the mid 80s, the technology and the manufacturing base of India was reasonably behind that which the Western world had achieved. And so it was important for us to kind of grasp the technology and then see how we can apply it. So a lot of the R&D initially was how we can make indigenous versions of
what is already existing.
What exists,
Got it.
right? And at that time we did cement machinery.
Was it allowed? Was there any patent issues or anything?
No. So the thing was that we were very clear in the R&D group. It was not about reverse engineering. It was about figuring out that if somebody had a product, then what were the fundamental basics on which that product worked, and how could we design a product to do the same thing.
Understand.
So the approach was that, and which is what made it enjoyable. So it was not about
copying the same thing.
Just breaking down things, but just saying that if this piece of machinery does this kind of work, then what's the best way to make it, and what are the principles applied in that machine, and how does it work. So that's how it started. And I would say fortuitously for me, somewhere around 86, 87, India started its integrated guided missile development program. So at that time, Dr. Kalam headed the program, and his aim, he had moved to DRDO from ISRO, and his objective was to build 5 indigenous missiles for India.
Okay. And we are talking which year? 86?
Yeah. So his mission started around 84 when I joined L&T, but he started reaching out to the industry around 86. And this is those famous 5: Agni, Akash, Prithvi, Nag, and he realized that if India has to make these different missiles, it has to involve its industry. It can't be done within DRDO and within a scientist community. And being the kind of visionary guy that he was, he realized that industries like L&T could play a critical role in this. So he reached out to us and told us that, okay, why don't you guys get involved in building the ground systems for this? And we'll only tell you what we want. We won't do the design for you and hand it over to you. So that's how we got started into defense.
So actually L&T got involved in this way back in 86.
Yeah.
In the defense space, working with the government.
Working with the government, doing contracts for DRDO.
Understand.
In those days, private industry couldn't sell to the Ministry of Defense. It was only in 2001 when...
So it's still fairly restrictive, But you still worked with the DRDO.
You could work with DRDO,
but along
as
their
a
lines.
contractor,
Got it.
to DRDO, and work in their development.
But let me just delve a little bit into that.
Sure.
So pre-DRDO involvement in terms of your and now, which is obviously much more freer and ability to deal directly to ministry. Is that different? I mean, has that made a difference in your ability to get better speed of execution?
So, for a long time, till 2001, the business was small because we were contractors to DRDO and to the defense PSUs and stuff like that. Today, we can directly pursue contracts with the Ministry of Defense. And that's of a different scale.
So, multi-billion-dollar projects you pursue as opposed to being a subcontractor to DRDO.
Absolutely. So, 2001 was a watershed. It took us 5-7 years to build our facilities, to break into contracts, to build a few partnerships, to enhance our product range, and then take it to market. And that is how when the business really grew. So I would say there are two phases, 86 to 2001.
And then 2001 onwards.
2001 to 2025 when we are sitting today. It's a different thing. And then maybe from here on, things could be still bigger because today India is on that road of self-reliance in defense technology. We've just heard about the Operation Sindoor where Indian weapon systems were deployed against Chinese and Pakistani and Turkian systems and
indigenous
Indian system. So our equipment has come of age. The geopolitical
environment is such that we have to do it.
That we don't have a choice. So all of this portends well for this industry. Obviously, what it means for the world and the entire geopolitics is a different.
Countries have run on wars, by the way. So I'm sure L&T.
So it's not as if we are praying for wars, but as long as conflicts and tensions exist, we need to be prepared, and the thrust will be on self-reliance.
No, thanks for that, Arun. Since this podcast is predominantly about leadership, so let me explore that too. I mean, obviously, we spoke about defense, the importance of L&T and all of that, but where did leadership play a role in this? In terms of actually getting things executed on time on a project basis, and these are like big, multi-million, billion-dollar projects, and there's a lot at stake, including the country's security and L&T's reputation, a lot of that. Can you delve a little bit into where leadership plays a role in terms of getting things done?
So, I think leadership plays, like everywhere else, leadership here too plays a critical role. And again, in the context of where we were, we started something like a startup, out of a small R&D laboratory, trying to build equipment. We really didn't know. We just had a couple of small contracts, and we wanted to build, deliver on those contracts. And we were a young team. They were just, 4 of us.
You must have been mid-20s at that time.
I was early 20s.
Oh, wow.
And, the senior most guy we had was my boss then, who was from IIT Bombay. We had, and for that time, we worked across L&T divisions. So we worked with people from the control and automation division. So we had a gentleman from IIT Chennai. In our mechanical team, we had one guy from IIT Kanpur, and in the electronics team, they had one guy from IIT Kharagpur. So we were all together, a small team, like a startup, with a mission that, look, this is what we want to create. And I think that brought in leadership qualities amongst us. We were on a mission. And, initially when I started, I spent a lot of time doing work myself and, focusing on my R&D. So the first report that I had was a graduate engineer trainee who joined maybe 2.5 years. After I joined, then I had somebody reporting to me. And, 1 month after he had joined, he suddenly gave me his resignation letter. and I looked at that letter and I looked at this guy and I just realized that in this past 1.5 months I've hardly spent any time with him because I've been so involved in my work that I just haven't given any attention to him. And when I talked to him, I kind of realized that this was a leadership failure. His resignation was probably triggered by a leadership failure. In that, when you have somebody working with you, you're supposed to, give attention and understand that you have a co-worker and have a role to play. And I suppose for me that was an eye-opener. From that point onwards, I kind of realized that the importance of building teams, the importance of getting people locked onto the mission. So I think we worked, it was a different kind of leadership. It was not about, a regiment. Though we did defense equipment, it was not about regimentation, it was not about discipline. It was about how to get the creativity of the people out, how to get people locked into the mission, how to motivate people into that, how to share your technical expertise and knowledge with the others. And I think these became the ingredients of that leadership, which then propelled a lot of success for us because the teams became well knit. We worked.
How big is the
with
team
purpose.
now? Let me ask.
So today, if I look at the entire business that I handle, there are about 3,000 people who are permanent employees who are part of this business, and maybe another 3,000
contractors
who are.
So that means your team is 3,000 plus a broad responsibility and or involvement with maybe 6,000 people.
That's right.
That's a different level of leadership, of course, you need to bring to the table too.
Yeah.
So what sort of leader are you? I mean, you do not come across as a typical alpha male, aggressive, get things done leaders who are typically the ones who are more successful. And I'm not saying understated leaders are not successful. But the majority is the more alpha male, female, because now everyone wants to be an alpha, right? But you're very different. I mean, you're understated. You do not. You speak when you have something meaningful to say. How is that? Has it worked for you?
So I would say it has worked for me, and I was working in the right environment which enabled this kind of a leadership style to succeed.
Okay.
In the sense it was very mission driven. And
sorry to interrupt you there. It's interesting you say that, and we'll come back to your train of thought. But the reason I want to I interrupted you is, look, you're talking about the environment. The environment in the L&T was conducive to such a leader doing well, and so on and so forth. So I'll have to ask you a difficult question. In the recent past, of course, L&T has been in the news for all the wrong reasons, because of obviously some comments made, and unfortunately someone taking a video and circulating it, and also done in a not necessarily the right manner. But having said that, it did send a perception that L&T is a company which is kind of slave driving its employees, making them work 70 hours a week or whatever. Is that reality, or was it just something taken out of context? And so, because your answer that the environment was conducive for this leads me to believe that that's probably not the case.
So, number one, L&T is a very diversified company. And again, the leadership styles are quite different across the segments of business. So, for example, I did work in a workshop for early part of my training. Now, if you're a workshop man, you see different stereotypes in the workshop, where it is all about structure, discipline, time, overtime, and all of that. Okay, so that requires people who succeed in that environment have different kind of leadership styles, very structured, very system driven. Then there are big projects. Again, projects have hard deadlines. You have to be quick in decision making. You have to move things. You handle large workforces. So that requires a different kind of leadership from, say, a workshop, where here it's about getting things done.
Yeah.
Quick decision making, all of that. So that's another style. I worked in an R&D driven environment where it was more about creativity and all that. So what I would say underlying to L&T is that some of the key strengths which enable different type of leaders to come up in L&T is a sense of empowerment which the organization gives.
Sure.
So, very early you're probably in charge of doing a complex metro project. You're probably in charge of doing tunneling. The first time a tunnel is being put under the coastal, under the seas of Mumbai.
L&T was doing that, right?
And L&T is doing it, and you'll be surprised that there are a lot of project managers and people who are on the ground who are very young people. And the organization entrusts them with this
with big jobs.
With big jobs.
Big responsibilities.
Yeah. And oftentimes, people respond to these kind of challenges and they go beyond themselves.
Sure.
So I would say that it's a big strength of L&T, and the reason why a number of people have hung on in L&T for long is that they get challenged, they get empowered.
Yeah.
So there's nobody breathing down your neck. The whole game is that we have to finish this project on time.
Yeah.
And we have to finish it with our brand quality and
intact and reputation.
And I suppose that is an enabler.
Yeah.
The relevant leadership style, I won't say that my style is the most common style in L&T. Different places there are different styles.
Yeah. But since it's diversified, it works. What works best for the kind of
but
environment?
Underlying is that the organization permits you to do that.
Yeah, which is good. All right. So, have there been any? Well, great. I mean, so that's really good to know, because that sets us a lot of the.
I mean, all of us are required to work hard because the kind of growth that you
that's
talked
the reality
about,
almost anywhere, and particularly in a growing organization.
And it's there, whether it's a bank or a financial institution.
You're there to work.
It's not that people don't work long hours and people don't
and
want to
many
finish
people enjoy
tasks.
it. I mean, so I keep telling you, Arun, you got to work less. I think you can practically work 24/7. You almost even Sundays I see you go for meetings and all of that kind of stuff. But all right, any failures which are notable in the sense 42 years, and I'm taking into failures because obviously we spoke about L&T, we spoke about the culture, all that is great. But has there been any place where you believe, apart from that graduate trainee leaving, which is in the early part of your career, but has there been any place where, to the extent you can reveal, things where it hasn't worked out, and maybe if you had done things differently, it might have been different?
So, like I said, the initial part of my work was building equipment, weapon systems and all that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we faced failure in that. And
when you say, what defines a failure?
So, for example, we make a missile launching system, and the first trial you have, the missile, probably explodes.
Is that a critical failure, or is
it is a very critical failure because it's like 2.5 years of work
which has gone
down.
So
it's like preparing for.
How long does it take to bring it back to the track?
So now I think that's the learning, and that's where we have been, I would say, somewhat successful. That we've been able to fix these failures pretty soon. So when you have this, it's a big setback. It's like preparing for an Olympic race, and
and not even getting bronze.
Yeah, not even getting.
Not even qualifying for the last 10.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like you feel 3 years of all your training and all is come to naught. And that's exactly the feeling that you get when you build something and it doesn't work and it's expected.
Has that happened?
It's happened. I can't say several times, but it's happened. It's happened.
Yeah. So there have been some failures, right? What have you learned? Any key learnings from some of these failures, which you think could have been better done, and maybe the failure might not have happened?
Yeah. So let's talk about 3 types of failures, right? The first one is a job failure, or something that you wanted to create and you didn't get it right the first time. So I think the key learning there is to just step back, to analyze clinically what went wrong. Not get clouded by I did this right and I did this, but just to step back and clinically analyze. Don't look for scapegoats. Don't look to blame anybody. Figure it out. Find out the what would work instead and implement it. And we followed this practice, and it's yielded good dividends. So that's one kind of failure. The other kind of failure may relate to business decisions. Should we pursue a project, or should we bid in this fashion for a project? Today the game we are playing is quite different. These are high stake, large value projects with people, foreign companies wanting to get in, new investors wanting to get in, the startup and innovator ecosystem competing with you. So you have to make the right decisions, and it takes a long time in such cases for you to realize the mistake. If it's a bidding mistake, maybe you just overbid and you lost a contract, and it could be a big setback because that contract could have meant continuity of So these are the kind of mistakes which you make, and again here to dispassionately look at it and see how you could do it better next time. I think that's the key takeaway. And the third are people-related mistakes. So
not the right person for the job.
Yeah, so you make mistakes like that, and again you need to step back and say that look, somewhere our heart has ruled our head, and we haven't been clinical about people issues. So we've had ups and downs on all three of these, not many, but I think we've learned from each of these, and if you can create organizational learnings out of these, so that the organization, it's not about an individual, but the rest of the organization doesn't repeat these mistakes. It's important.
All right. No, thanks for that, Arun. Let me maybe do a little bit of a segue into an area which, and you can reveal or choose to say what you believe is the right answer. But typically, when you're involved in large value and you're talking billions of dollars of governmental contracts, there are several types of challenges, in that. Starting with the bidding process itself, and whether the most competitive and the most competent organization gets it or not, could be subject to several factors, including lobbying, maybe corruption. All of those elements do come into play. And then once you win the contract, and we'll explore that element, but once you win the contract, post-execution, even the payment. Normally, there are perceptions, or maybe it's reality, I don't know, that governmental contracts, typically the payment takes time for you to finally get through. How true, how relevant, or rather from an L&T perspective, how critical or how big was integrity, while dealing with these sort of situations?
So large government contracts are complex. There are a lot of forces at work, and but our approach has been that let's just figure out the best way to win it. I mean, we are not scared of protesting if we feel the process has not been fair. Typically, I would rate it as process, because these are extremely complex kind of procurement cases, and the process has its own shortcomings.
What's a typical lifetime of a project, from RFP stage to final execution?
So in the defense, it starts from something called an acceptance of necessity, which is the forces decide that they need something, and then somebody kind of sanctions it. Defense Acquisition Council headed by the defense minister says, okay, now India needs 120 fighter aircrafts. right? And that's an acceptance of necessity to an RFP, to a bid, to trials, you know, to evaluation, to declaration of L1, to contract negotiation, to award of a contract.
So that long, how long does that
So it can vary anything between 2 to 5 to 7 years.
2 to 5 to 7 years.
Yes.
So by then the technology might have changed. You know,
So-
the relevance of the product might not be there.
So-
Isn't that too long?
So the whole thrust today in the government is how to bring this down. And it will come from maturity of markets, it will come from maturity of processes, it will come from strengthening the acquisition setup. You know, today the government typically works in a way where people spend 2 to 3 years in a role, and then they, you know, you might have somebody coming from, let's say, the mining ministry coming into the defense.
There's no clue what is that.
So, you know, so I suppose that there will be need for more professional procurement organizations, you know. There is and this is one of the top reforms that the government is looking at. How to shorten this?
Has it become better?
It has become better. The government has a thrust on this. You know, they've put deadlines for each of these processes. And of course, it's not always that the deadline is met, and it's not always easy to fix accountability for deadline slippages, but the process is moving in that direction. That said, defense acquisition worldwide is a slow process. So,
is it okay? That's a good question I need to ask. How do we compare, let's say 5 to 7 years, or maybe 5 years on average? How does that compare with, let's say, any other country?
So I would say in the so-called advanced world, I think the budgets are big, and the government has more or less nominated entities, you know. So, I mean, if an aircraft has to be built in the US, it would be a Boeing or a Northrop or a Lockheed, you know. So those are mature markets. The government, it's okay for the government to give a contract to one of these, you know, established players. In our system,
so that takes how long typically?
So I would say it's much faster there. You know, I think it varies from case to case, so it's very difficult to say. But my presumption is that the average timelines there are, you know,
2 to 3 years probably.
Maybe shorter,
Maybe shorter than 2 to 3 years. So maybe our target needs to be from 5 to 7 years, get it down closer to 2 to 3 years if that is possible.
So that's what we need to do, and it would require maturity of the industry, maturity of the procurement system, etc., etc.
Thanks, Raman. That's interesting. So maybe you know, since we're talking about leadership, and I have been asking these questions in my earlier podcast too about bosses in general. I mean, in my career, I've had 30 plus bosses in my 30-year career. Some good, some bad, some ugly. I'm sure even though it's been only L&T, you also have had your share of bosses. Have you had any bad or ugly bosses? And you don't need to name anyone, but I mean, what are the characteristics that distinguish a great boss, and what are the ones which, if in case you have had, but if you're lucky enough to only deal with good bosses, that's a different matter. But what are something which you have faced which you believe have not been really great?
So, you know, fortunately for me, in these 40 odd years, I've had 4 bosses.
And all of them have been okay.
No, I'll come to that. And one of them has been, you know, the guy with whom I started in R&D. He was my boss for, you know, over 30 years.
Wow, one boss for 30 years.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. So it's almost like a marriage, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Very few people have.
You begin to understand each other, and
you don't even need to say. Just look at. He looks at you and you figure out what you want.
Yeah, we know each other's characteristics, and he can predict, you know. Given a situation, how I would respond, and you know, vice versa. So I've been fortunate to that extent. Of course, every person is different and their leadership styles are different.
Yeah.
And I've got to learn from each of these people, their strengths, and I've benefited from it. What again a common thread which I would say is that all of them have been very empowering, and to me that's been an important thing that has made me been around, and so I've always felt trusted and empowered, and never hesitated to take a decision which might even be beyond my pay grade. I would knowing how my boss is
like
like
ask forgiveness later.
So I think that's happened. The characteristics are different. Some guys are more impatient. Some guys, want updates on certain things. Some guys want to be informed about certain things.
Sure.
So there are all these different styles, and of course, all my bosses have been achievers, and they've done well in their careers.
Are they still with L&T? Many of them?
So my current boss is the boss of L&T.
Sure. Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah, and my previous boss has retired now, but with whom I did spend most of my career.
Okay, all right.
And of course, he is always for him also. It's been an emotional involvement with his job, so he's always around to mentor, to talk, to give advice. You could reach out to him, and he'll be happy to roll up his sleeves and get involved again. Yeah,
even now.
Even now, yeah.
All right. Maybe we'll end with, and Arun, thanks for this. I mean, it's been a great conversation, and we've explored various aspects of, obviously, L&T, the defense space, leadership, to the extent possible. What next in terms of, look, we're in a good, I would say, inflection point as far as defense requirements of India as a country and the current geopolitical situation, and L&T's leadership in that space, and obviously your journey with L&T, for 40 plus years. So what next for you and for L&T and the L&T defense space?
Okay, so let's go one by one. L&T defense, First let's talk about the defense space in India. And like I started saying that, this whole geopolitical environment and this thrust for doing things in India, the whole thrust towards making India a developed nation by 2047, is our wheels in motion, and they augur well for this segment. India has to invest in defense R&D, it has to invest in defense technology, it has to invest in defense manufacturing, and we have to grow self-reliant. So I think that's a big positive and a big opportunity that I see for the sector as a whole. Coming to L&T defense, I suppose that we've built a strong foundation of many years. We've invested in R&D, we've built strong teams, we've created a base. So I think we are well poised to take advantage of this opportunity and scale up the business. So that aspect looks good for us. Coming to, for me, personally, and how do I see it? I would say I have, done most of my career, and now what remains.
Does L&T have a retirement age?
Yeah, okay, we'll come to that. Let me answer this question first. So finally, Ajith, let me come to what's in store for me in the future. And from my perspective, having spent 42 years, and I will answer your question about retirement age in L&T. But at this point, I think it's important for me that we've set up a base for this business, and there are opportunities out there, and we need to prepare the team to be ready to exploit these opportunities and to stay ahead in them. So for me, the priority really is to define our strategy for the next 5 years. We are in the process of detailing that out, for building the teams that would carry us into the next 5 years, for making sure that capability-wise, infrastructure-wise, we are well poised for that, for creating those good positioning in the market for certain opportunities. So these are the things which are top of my mind, and which I am focusing on, that in the next year or so to have all these set and in place.
And then go on a world cruise, is it?
Yeah, and then do what you've been telling me all this while.
Forever.
Yeah, what you've been telling me forever.
Yeah.
So I think I'm getting there, and we need to get the teams right.
Yeah.
What we've also done, defense is a lumpy kind of business. Today we are playing in the arena of large contracts. So we've today rechristened ourselves as L&T Precision Engineering and Systems. So we are looking beyond defense.
Yeah.
We believe that today India has an opportunity to be a player alternate to other countries like China in the product space.
Even exporting.
Yeah, so we are looking at defense export. I mean, in the next 5 years, we would like a larger percentage.
We do export.
We are already exporting, and we'd like this base to grow. We are looking at products which can be used in the industrial space as well.
Sure.
So we have manufacturing capabilities, we have product development capabilities. We see explosion in the area of electronics, for example.
Yeah.
And there are not many Indian products which are out there.
Yeah.
Today you just even take a simple computer router or something, it comes from Cisco,
Sure.
and there's just not enough Indian products out there. So I think that's an opportunity which we are going to diversify into. And my task is to put that also on a springboard so that it can take off. The kind of growth that I've seen in my career, from a 400 crore company to a 2.5 trillion size company, I believe that an accelerated level of that growth should be possible. And our business, which today is in the ballpark of $1 billion business, we started as a startup with a few lakhs of contracts.
So the defense revenue is about $1 billion.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's big. Thank you, Arun. And thank you for watching. I hope you find it interesting. It's been a great conversation with Arun, and hope you enjoy watching us. Thank you.